This is Van Fleet Neighborhood Park. Ooh, I missed it. We're going to say this is David Douglas Park. This is also related to David Douglas Park, but this right here is Van Fleet Neighborhood Park. It is a neighborhood park attached to a larger nature park. And we're right at the crest, the Vancouver crest at the top of it along Mill Plain, much like in Fir Crest Park. And I've also said, when I was a kid and I would have gone here, I would have been like, oh, this is somebody's rich cousin's house, but this is a pretty middle of the middle area. And what I'm doing now is I'm looking for where Van Fleet Park, which is a neighborhood park, leads into the woods. Well, this looks like this is something, and it looks like a broad enough trail that this looks like an actual trail and not like just some eroded path to people's party spots. But I guess I will find out. And, you know, I really can't get lost here. Even though this is going to nature park, it's not that big. So one way or another, I can find what I'm looking for. And very quickly, we have actually entered a place with some shade and a sense of tranquility. And I said that in the Larry Hagen Park that you could actually find a lot of nature tucked away in neighborhoods, and this is much more natural than that park was. Here we have a division. Don't know if I should walk up that way or back this way. That does look like a trail that might get eroded and scrambly, so maybe best for me and for the forest if I just walk along this trail. Okay, for a minute I thought that said private property, motorized vehicles prohibited. I hope so. Doesn't seem like a place where it would be very nice to drive a car. So one thing I do know about the limits of where this road can go, this way we are walking towards Andreessen Road, and I can kind of hear the cars roaring on it. So at that point, this path will either stop or stop and turn, but I won't be just walking this direction forever and ever and ever and ever. And there's the road, which means I should turn this way. Don't know if this path does continue, but in any case, I'm going to have to walk up this hill. So might as well do it here. So one thing I don't know, and I can't tell, but would be interesting to know, is whether these are actually trees that predate European settlement. When the settlers came in general, even on area that wasn't perfect for farming, a lot of trees got cut down for construction or for fuel or whatever. But this actually does look preserved enough. You look at those trees, wondering if this gulch was not worth logging, and these are actually original trees. Now looking down, you can see there's a lot of ivy there. So this is not a pristine forest, but the trees might be original. I don't know. And then we can see here, so I follow this path and end up where I am. This is David Douglas Park. And as you can see, this is a more traditional park. We have shelters and picnic tables and sports fields. So this is David Douglas Park. I don't actually even know if that's part of the park or if that's just unimproved land or something, just an interstitial space. But this is David Douglas Park. I also wonder if they have drinking fountains. Guess I've been walking for longer than I thought I was, and I want a little drink of water. You can also see there, if you can see through the lens flare, and you can see in this direction, park's pretty empty, and it is on a Monday, but it's a nice Monday day, a little bit after 5 o'clock. So it's kind of interesting that in Costa Rica, sometimes I got annoyed because I would go places, all has felt so cramped. And then here, this feels empty. And this is obviously not universally the case, because you remember when we went to Larry Hagen, that was quite popping. But here it looks pretty empty, even over there by the sports field. And you can see there's a single car here. And you can see over there, there's some houses. I think those are pretty recent houses. Neighborhood might not be recent, but the houses are. They might have been rebuilt over older houses there. And one of the reasons why you have those fancier, more expensive houses there is that I think that they have a view over the hill in that direction. If you look over the hill in that direction, there's a pretty steep hill, and then you go down to the Burnt Bridge Creek Greenway. And this way, the hill is a lot smoother down to the Columbia River. So as you can see here, we have baseball field. It says field 3. So we have several different baseball fields. So I think that, like, this is where people go for events. This is not just people going to play catch in a field near their home. Will they work? Will they work? I'm thinking they will. Yes. So I'm just walking this way. I think this is the exit to the park. So I really just took kind of a short circuit around the park. And it is a larger park, but not like that gigantic of a nature park where you can spend hours here. Well, you could spend hours here. I'm not going to spend hours here today, though. But first, I'm going to sit down at this picnic table and meditate. I will say, you can see the trail begins here from, something that is more recognizable as part of the park. And there is a sign. It looks pretty eroded, but motorized vehicles prohibited. So if this wasn't part of the park or whatever, they wouldn't have a sign. But it's also interesting that a lot of these places, they have like an entire little sign with a map, with mileage, with like interpretive guides, with little, embossments of bears and other wildlife. They can really lay it on. This is just a trail that disappears in the woods. So whatever this is, and I think it is part of the park, it's not like the main reason, because the main thing this park is here for seems to be for the fields. And then you just have this little hidden nature gulch attached, but I'm not complaining. So as we're getting prepared to go, we have a pretty typical 70s neighborhood, and over there we have some apartment buildings that might be newer. You can see from here the expanse of this park. It is a big park, and you can walk by Mill Plain, you don't even know it's here. It's one of the larger parks in Vancouver. And you do have that nature experience, and it's kind of small, but like it is one of those places, and I've said this other places, you go in there for 2 or 3 minutes and you actually do feel, oh, you're somewhere else, you're somewhere different. There's a lot of nature experiences like that you can have in Vancouver, which is nice. And the other side, we've seen Mill Plain and how it's like 8 and 9 roads and covered with chain businesses and strip malls. So it's nice to see something like this. David Douglas Park, which is named after David Douglas. A lot of stuff is named after him, including, I think that's one of them there. I think that's a Douglas fir tree. So there are many sides to Vancouver, and a lot of times people driving through it might see kind of the ugly side, but then you can also see, there is these little just niches where you can kind of go and disappear and explore. Anyway, so that's one more thing to see, and I don't know how much we'll see in Vancouver, but we are still here for a couple days. So I hope you enjoyed another park walk.